and welcome to this live. Guys, it is the 10th hour and I wanted to make sure that I showed up to assist you guys by revealing 10 traps that are attempting to take you out from taking territory in 2026. So wherever you're joining me from, if you're looking forward to discovering what these 10 traps are, but more importantly, the 10 tactics in order to overcome these 10 traps, then just write me inside the chat. Now, before we get started, let's do a little bit of, I guess I call it housewarming. Let me know in the chat, guys, where you are joining me from. Are you in the UK? Are you in the US of A? Are you in Australasia? Are you in Asia? Let me know in the chat where you're tuning in from. And I see people jumping in already on all of these platforms. We've got Lola Gets jumping in on Instagram. And let me check the other platforms as well as they're all coming through. All right, guys. And guys, let me know where you're tuning in from. Where's your state? If you're in the US of A, if you're in the UK, let me know what city you're repping or where you're jumping in from. If you are in Australasia or in Asia, let me know where you're tuning in from so I can welcome you in today's session. Because in today's session, we're going to be really just digging in deep into some real simple concepts and ideas that you can use in order to move further faster, in order to make sure that in 2026, you're not caught behind. So my advocation, all right, after you guys throw in where you're tuning in from, my advocation is to ensure you have your notepad, your iPad, your tablet, your stylus, your pen, paper, and everything you need in order to succeed. Now, your question might be, well, Samuel, how have you discovered these traps? How did you kind of figure these out? How did you find these out? Okay. And if I'm going to be totally honest with you, most of these I actually found out by accident. It was over the years. This year I turned 40, or last year I turned 40. And in this 40th year of life, I recognized and realized that there are a number of traps that every single year are attempting to slow us down or set us back, or even worse, cause us to create what I call purpose suicide. Okay. And the reality is, if you don't want to create some form of a purpose suicide where you're actually destroying your purpose, then you're going to have to get to a place in your life where you start recognizing these traps. And it's one thing to write these traps down and say, okay, cool, I need to make sure I do this. It's another thing to start living them out, okay? So it's not just about writing them down, it's about living them out. So if I've got anyone in the session today who's saying, you know what, Samuel, I'm with you. I'm making a concerted commitment today to be someone who doesn't just write things down, but to actually make sure I take steps to make this happen, just write the word me in the chat so I know I'm with the right people as we push into that. Now, I'm going to start with the first thing, the first trap. And the way I'm going to share these traps is very simple. I'm going to share them in a way where I'm going to be sharing with you the tactic at the same time of the trap. So how am I going to do that? Well, the way I'm going to do that is I'm going to reveal to you what we need to do. And as I reveal to you what we need to do, you will obviously see that the trap is the not doing of what I'm sharing with you. And that way we can kind of hopefully be succinct in terms of our time as we go through everything we're talking about today. All right. So the first thing that we need to make sure we're doing in 2026 so that we can be taking territory, to ensure that we're not stuck in the past, is to actually do something that relates heavily to our past. And the first thing we need to do is rewind. Okay, someone throw in the chat the word rewind. Now you might be asking yourself, Samuel, why do I need to rewind? Like, I'm out of 2025, I'm out of 2024, I'm out of those years that have come before. But one of the things many of the time we don't realize, and I'm just realizing we didn't have our TikTok family come through yet. We didn't hit the go live on TikTok. So we're doing that now. But one of the things that many people don't realize about the rewind is, if you don't go back, if you don't play back the tapes, you're not going to equip yourself to be able to see the necessary value to go forward. So it's essential to actually rewind. That's the first thing you need to do. Wherever you're going to, rewind, take stock, take a step back, ask yourself, well, hold on a minute. In order to go forward in 2026, let me make sure that I understood what I got out of 2024, out of 2025, out of 2023, out of 2021, out of 1980. Whenever your historic years may have started, ask yourself the question, have you actually been taking the lessons? So it starts with a rewind. Someone throw in the chat the word rewind, okay? So that's where it all starts. It all starts with a rewind. Now, the first trap in tandem with that is to get us to not rewind. I remember growing up hearing coaches say it all the time, you got to play back the tapes. The trap is to get you to not play back the tapes. It's to get you to not think about for yourself, well, hold on a minute, what haven't I done in the past that maybe if I had done in the past would have helped me to outlast the drama, the trauma, the stress that I'm going to potentially face going forward. Okay, so the first thing is to rewind. Now, I say this because not enough people rewind. Okay, not enough people go back and ask themselves, hold on a minute, what mistakes did I make in the past? And for those of you who's joining us on TikTok, welcome. We got you inside of the stream. We're doing it in a bit of an ad hoc way, but you're in here anyway. All right, now, that's the first thing. As we analyze the 10 traps that are attempting to take us out and stop us from being able to take territory in 2026, the first thing that will be of value to you is to rewind. Rewind, okay? Rewind, okay? Let me see if I'm going to get anyone in the chat with the word rewind. I know most of the people that I serve are typically, we call them introverts, so sometimes they're a bit too shy to throw comments in here, but it's all good. All right, so the first thing we want to do is rewind, okay? Now, why do we want to rewind? We want to rewind because that allows us to absorb and take up all of the things from the past. Now, after you rewind, and one of the things I'm going to do for those of you who are tuned in on, I think that the easiest place to do it is on YouTube, but in the description of this video or in the comment of this video, when this live becomes a published video on YouTube, I'm going to give the links, or I'm going to share the links. I'll get my team or myself to share all of the links to the resources that I'm going to talk about, okay? Because after rewind, the second thing you want to do is review, okay? Someone throw in the chat the word review. Now, what's the purpose and the value of the review? The purpose and the value of the review is for you to not just go over the tapes of last year, go over the tapes of the year before, go over the tapes of the bygone years, but to also be someone who from going over can say, well, hold on a minute, this is a gem from there. Hold on a minute, this is just junk from there. Hold on a minute, if I take this gem and this gem and this gem and put them together, I now have a framework or a formula that I can use to move forward. Now, some of you might be thinking, Samuel, framework, formula, in order to move forward, how does that work? Well, I'll tell you how it works. In 2014, I had the business finding property deals for other people. So I was finding assets and helping other people to get rich, basically. And what would happen is these investors would pay me a fee, a one-off fee, and then take these opportunities, these property opportunities, and generate revenue, make money off of these properties every single God-blessed month, recurring, right? So they'd make money recurring, and I'd make money once, okay? And there's nothing wrong with that because that's what I signed up for. There's nothing wrong with that because that's what I was there for. There's nothing wrong with that because that was my part of the deal. That was my part of the bargain, all right? So there was nothing wrong with that. But here's where this gets interesting. It gets interesting when I started to realize that I wanted to actually build wealth. And I started to realize that I was actually struggling to build wealth because instead of building wealth, I was helping other people build wealth whilst I wasn't building wealth for myself, okay? If someone knows what I'm talking about, just write in the comments, I do, okay? Because some of us do that all the time. We got these 6-figure, 7-figure, 8-figure jobs sometimes where we are assisting someone else to build wealth, but we're being paid 1 month at a time, or we're being paid one fee at a time. So we are stuck and unable to build wealth for ourselves, okay? And let me know if you understand what I'm talking about. If you do, just write I do in the chat now. What I discovered when I was finding these properties for these other people was a framework which, since discovering this in 2015, has paid me in excess of 7 figures. How did that happen? I'll tell you how it happened. I started to not just rewind, but I also started to review. I started to think to myself, well, hold on a minute. In this process I'm going through of finding great deals for these other investors, in this process I'm going through of being able to attract valuable assets, what am I actually doing? So it's one thing to rewind, it's another thing to review. And what I started to see as I started to review was I had a 4-step framework, which I've since turned into content. I've since turned into IP. I've since turned into courses. I've since turned into coaching programs. And that 4-part framework is a very simple framework. I can share it with you. If you guys want me to share it with you, just write in the comments me, all right? Or just write in the comments share, all right? And if you guys are interested, I will share it with you. Dwayne Patrick in the house, I see you, who says I do. All right. So you guys let me know. I see TikTok blowing up the likes. Guys in TikTok, give me some comments. Let me know that the comments are coming through from you guys as well, right? So in 2014, I'm finding these assets, these property assets. I'm helping other people get rich. I'm literally selling these assets and taking a one-time fee. And it dawned on me like, Samuel, you're not going to build your own wealth by taking these one-time fees again and again and again. The only way you're going to build your own long-term wealth is by being someone who recognizes and realizes, hold on, how are these investors able to pay me my one-time fee? Well, they're able to pay me my one-time fee because they've tapped into a concept called cash flow. They've tapped into recurring revenue. And for those of you who've been on any of my training, you know that I define cash flow as the revenue that keeps on coming. Cash flow is the revenue that keeps on coming. So if you build your business based on profits, if you build your business based on equity, but you build your business lacking cash flow, you don't have a revenue that keeps on coming. Okay, so hopefully this is making sense. If it's making sense, just write yes in the chat so I know it's making sense. Now, the first trap is to not rewind. The second trap is to not review. When we rewind, when we play back the tapes, when we look back over our lives and we're like, okay, last year, this is what I didn't do well. Last year, this is what I did do well. We need to be able to get a keen eye to be able to review. That review is where we break down the things that we have rewinded and seen. That's where we start extrapolating or taking out the value so we can start to create or build out our frameworks. We can start to create or build out our thought processes. We can start to create or build out the functions that are going to help us to move forward. So in 2014, as I shared with you, I realized that I was helping people literally become rich by following a 4-step framework, okay? And if anyone wants to know that framework, just write the word share. So the first thing is to rewind. The second thing is to review. Now, one of the ways my family and I review, we've been doing reviews at the end of each year for a number of years. But in 2020, we started using a particular resource, okay? And it's not a resource I created, okay? But I will say this just for the sake of clarity. Me and my family alter this resource. So we don't use the resource the way the resource is. We actually make amendments to this resource. But over the last couple of days, my family and I, and those of you who know anything about my family, if you don't, I'm a married man with 6 children, all right? And we homeschool our children. So we home educate, okay? And we work from home as well, right? So it's incumbent upon me, it's incumbent upon my wife to ensure that my children understand the things in their life, all right? And this is one of the ways we do this. We play back the tapes, we rewind, but that second trap that we overcome is we review. How do we review? Here's how we review. We use something called a year compass, okay? So those of you who are tuned in should be able to see that. Okay, year compass. And I said already, guys, you can see my name's right up there. I wrote that literally with a pen. But I've said already, guys, and I'll say it again. I will, and for those of you on TikTok, apologies, I forgot my people are there, all right? All right, I will, I think I've said this already, I'll say it again. I will put this stuff inside of the description of the YouTube video once this video is published, okay, just to help you guys. And for those of you who don't know how to find that, my YouTube channel is at Samuel I Can Win, all right? So you can see here, this says the past year. I don't know if you can read that. Let's see if we'll get some focus from the camera. We definitely will. All right, so the past year, and you can just see stuff I've written down in terms of the past year. Now, the good thing with this year compass is a compass has north, east, south, west. So it's not just one directional. It's not just, okay, this is what last year was like. It's actually like, what's the plan for this year and all of that stuff. And that's kind of simpler and easier for me to write down because I typically with my business plan things from October for the year ahead or October for 2 years ahead. Okay. So each October is when I'm literally saying, okay, next year we're going to plan to do this. And the year after we're going to plan to do this. All right. So it's easy when I do the year review with my family, with my children to do the latter part of that year compass because the latter part of the year compass is like already done for me based like from my October work with my team. Okay. Now, some of you might be thinking, Samuel, like how much do I have to pay for that resource? This is a free resource, absolutely free resource. Okay. So someone write the word free in the chat. Okay. It's a free resource. So the first trap is to not rewind. The second trap is to not review. Someone write the word review in the chat. Someone write the word review in the chat. Now, here's where it gets actually tricky because I have found a lot of people rewind the tapes. Some people even to their own mental health detriment, okay? I have found that a lot of people review the tapes. Again, some people to their own health detriments, okay? But what I have found where a lot of people fall off is this third part of the traps, okay? So this third part of the traps is a lot of the time where people fall off. And I don't want you guys to fall off, which is why I'm gonna reveal the third part of the trap. So if you guys are with me, just throw the number 3 in the chat. So I know you guys are with me. I know you guys are tracking. Those of you who are on TikTok, let me know. Let me see the number 3. Instagram, number 3. Facebook, YouTube, whatever platform you're tuned in. Let's see that number 3 so I know you guys are with me. Now, many people rewind. Many people review. But so few people rethink. Okay? Now, rethinking is super, 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 super powerful. The reason why rethinking is super powerful is because your old thinking can only get you to your current location. Okay, I'm going to say that again in case you need to pick up a pen. Okay, your old thinking can only, not kinda can, your old thinking only has the capacity and potential to get to your current positioning. Now, I hope that makes sense, like cognitively. Because if that doesn't make sense, it's going to be very, very hard for you to kind of like get the rest of the stuff we're going to be sharing here. Okay. And we've only covered 3 of the traps: the trap to not rewind, the trap to not review, and the trap to not rethink. To go further into the second 7 traps or the second 7 tactics to overcome those second 7 traps, you're going to have to be someone who understands you need to rethink. Okay. Albert Einstein would often say that you cannot solve a problem using the same level of intelligence that problem was created. And Samuel I Can Win often says the reason why you can't do that is because you have to get to a place where your old level of intelligence is hated. Okay? So if you're someone who's saying to yourself, you know what, I love the way I think. The way I think is right. I got this on lock. Well, here's the funniest thing. The only thing you've got on lock is your current predicament and your current positioning. And I want you to think about that, because that's the reality. The destination you are at, your current sat-nav got you there. The place where you currently sit, your current thinking put you there. Your current throne, your current home, your current thinking made that happen alone. And when you start to realize this, guess what happened? Everything changes for you. Because you start realizing, well, hold on a minute, does that mean that it's actually impossible for me to become, for me to start to have, for me to start to do things at a different level, at a different capacity, at a different veracity than my current level of results? And the answer to that is 100% of course. Unfortunately, there's no prizes for consolation, but that's the reality. The reality is, until you get to a space in your life where you start realizing my current thinking got me to where I am, the only way to ascend to somewhere else is I need to alter my thinking. Until you get there, nothing changes. And this is the reason why I said, of all of the 10 traps, the trap that catches most people from what I've seen is either the inability to rethink or the flawed ability in the rethinking capacity or in the rethinking process. If this is making sense to someone, just write me in the chat. If this is like, let me literally see if this is resonating with you guys. Like if you guys are hearing what I'm talking about, like if you're actually in a place where you're like, Samuel, you know what, I'm getting this. I'm seeing what you're talking about. I'm seeing that in years past, maybe I have rewinded the tapes, maybe to my mental detriment as well. But maybe I have actually reviewed my last year, but I haven't really committed to rethinking. I haven't committed to putting down my current thoughts in order to pick up some new thoughts. Okay. Now, I wasn't planning to do this, but I'll do this because this might be helpful for you guys. There's a book that a friend of mine recommended me a number of years ago. He didn't actually even recommend it. What happened was, funnily enough, a friend of mine was reading the book. And those of you who know me, you know I've got a passion for books, an insatiable passion for books. And yes, in this live, like I mentioned, I'm going to be recommending a whole bunch of stuff because I just think it will be helpful for you. If you're in that way, if you're that way inclined, let me say that. And this friend of mine was reading this book. I saw the title, and in good old Jim Rohn fashion, I thought, like Jim Rohn has this saying, right? Jim Rohn has this amazing saying. His saying is, if you see a book with a title like How to Become a Millionaire, for example, and you're not a millionaire, he would say something like, shouldn't you have a book like that in your library? Don't you think a book like that should be in your library? Right? I used to love it when he'd say stuff like that. So basically, a friend of mine was reading this book. I saw the title of the book and I thought to myself, in good old Jim Rohn fashion, I should have a book like that in my library, right? And I got this book years ago. I can't remember how long ago it was. My handwriting tells me it was definitely over 20 years ago, just because I don't attest to having good handwriting now, but just how messy my handwriting is in this book. There you go. See, this is the good thing about reading books the way I read books. Okay, so when I read books, I don't know if you're gonna see this. Let's see. I tick off chapters as I read them, and I typically tend to write dates. Let's see if we get a focus on this. There we go. All right. So I tick off chapters as I read them, and I tend to often write dates as well. I don't know if you could see the date, but I could see that you guys could see the ticks. All right, so I'll read the date to you. The date that I finished chapter 10 was the 6th of November 2016. So that is, 6th of January 2016. How did I get November? Too many lines. 6th of January 2016. So this is interesting because this is nearly exactly 10 years ago. In 2 days. In 2 days, this will literally be exactly a decade ago that I was reading through this book for the first time. All right. And this book is called, for those of you who are interested, this book is called What to Say When You Talk to Yourself. Okay. What to say when you talk to yourself. And for those of you who's on TikTok, what to say when you talk to yourself. Okay. This book is written by Dr. Shad Helmstetter. And this is a very well-known book for people who read a lot of personal development. You've probably heard of this book before as well. It's not probably like a hidden secret. All right. But it's an interesting book because it talks through the psychology of how we think. It talks through the psychology of how we talk to ourselves. It talks through the psychology of, I guess I'd throw the sentence out there of the options you have naturally as you engage with your mental capacity. All right. Now, why is this important? Well, this is important because of this whole process of what I'm talking about, to rethink. Okay, rethink. Don't just settle for your current level of thinking. Rethink. Now, people who have been around me for a while, they will know that I often say coaching is the fastest path to success. Why do I say that? Because coaching is one of those ways that you can get a new way of thinking from somebody else who actually has results that you desire to get. Okay, Usain Bolt. Okay, let's give him a shout out right now. Okay, I see you. Dwayne Patrick says ordering. Okay, and I'm assuming that means Dwayne's ordering that book right now. Right, so that's great stuff. All right, and guys on TikTok, let me know if this is of value for you guys as well. Let me know if you guys on TikTok, if you're hearing me, cool. If you're getting this value, if this is all making sense. All right. So, yeah. So what to say when you talk to yourself is a book that 2016, I gather, I was reading through ferociously, making sure that I understood the conceptual ideas in that book. But the key is the rethinking. Okay, that's the third trap. The third trap is for you to not rethink, for you to not say to yourself, how can I develop my thinking? How can I enhance my thinking? How can I make my thinking better so my life can get better? Most people attempt to change so many areas in their life before they even think about changing their thinking. I'm going to say that again in case you needed to write it down with your pen. Most people will attempt to change multiple areas in and of their life before they even consider developing, enhancing, or changing their thinking. Let that not be your story. Okay, I'm going to say that again. Let that not be your story. In 2026, don't be the person who's caught out thinking that your thinking is the last thing that needs to change. Your thinking is usually the first thing that needs to be changed. Now, you might be saying, Samuel, why do you say that? Samuel, where'd you get this idea from? Well, I get this idea from the Bible, right? In the Bible, very simply, 3 John, I believe it's verse 2. If it's not verse 2, it's verse 1. You see you see John writing a letter to a gentleman named Gaius, who he titles, he gives him the title, my beloved Gaius. And he says, To the beloved guys, he says, I wish above all things that you prosper and you be in health, even as is a mathematical term, right? For those of you who are joining me on the live from these platforms, okay? So TikTok, unfortunately, you guys won't be able to see this, but I'm going to illustrate this for you because I want you guys to see this, right? He says, my beloved, I wish above all things, let's take this out of here so we're super relaxed, okay? He says, my beloved, I wish above all things that you will prosper. So he's saying this is part of the goal, okay? And he says, and that you'll be in health, okay? So that's part of the goal, health, prosper and health. But here's where most people get this wrong. He says, beloved, to the beloved guys, I wish above all things that you will prosper and be in health, which means inclusive in your prosperity is your high valued health. But listen to this. Even as. Now, the reason I understand this is because I'm a mathematician, right? My first undergraduate degree is in computing and statistics. My first master's that I studied was in statistics. Like I'm a bit of a math head, right? And as a mathematician, when you hear words like even, you know what that means. Well, what does even mean? I'm going to show you what even means. Even, let's see if we can keep that all on screen. Even, if you had to put it in a sign, is this sign here. Even if you had to put it in a sign, is the equal sign. For those of you joining us on TikTok, I don't even know if you guys can see that, right? But that's what it is. The even sign is literally the equal sign. So what John is saying in 3 John verses 1 and 2, when he's writing to Gaius, he says, my beloved, people I love, the guy I love, Gaius, who I love, I wish above everything else that you will prosper, okay? So my hope for you is that you have good stuff. Prospering is a good thing, right? So my hope for you is that you have good stuff. Then he goes on to say, even as your soul prospers. This is where it gets super cool. Because if he believes and desires for him to have prosperity, something good, if he calls him beloved, which means it's someone he loves, and he's saying that I want you to prosper even as your soul prospers, we should want to tune into, well, what do we need to do? And he says, even as your soul prospers. So what does that tell us? That tells us that prosperity, let's do this way. I think this is going to be super cool if we do it this way. That tells us that prosperity and health, which you might want to use the term externally, is mathematically equatable to prosperity internally. Okay? And for those of you who don't know, when we use the word soul, what are we talking about? Because I know for many of us, when we hear words like soul, we like, what's your soul, man? All right, so I'm gonna break down a definition of your soul that you can use for the rest of your life, and it should hopefully help you for the rest of your life as well, right? So let's break this down. Okay, I think someone in TikTok just dropped a gift. Thank you guys, we appreciate you. Okay, and for those of you using TikTok, if you're getting value, just throw the like. For those of you using any other platform, if you're getting value, just like the content or share the content. That's your way of saying like this is good stuff, and that gets more people like you, like me, in the same vicinity, if that makes sense, right? So let's go deeper. So he says, beloved, I wish above all things that you prosper and be in health, even as, which means equitable to, which means equal to, that's the mathematical symbol. So our prosperity and health externally is equal to our prosperity and health internally, right? But he says, even as your soul prospers. Now, why is this important? Well, I'm going to tell you why this is important. Because your soul, if you did not know, is actually your thinking. I usually write thinker, which is why I had to delete that. But it's your thinking. It's your choosing. And it's your feeling. Okay? When I first heard this a number of years ago, I was told that your soul is your thinker, your feeler, and your chooser. Okay? Someone write that in the chat. Thinker. Someone write in the chat. Feeler. Someone write in the chat. Chooser. Okay? That combination, in culmination, is your whole soul. You're thinking, you're feeling, you're choosing. You're thinking, you're feeling, you're choosing. That is your soul. So what we're being told here is, I wish above all things that you prosper and be in health, externally equal to you're prospering in your soul, equal to how your soul prospers, how your thinking prospers, how your feelings prosper, and how your choices prosper. Now, most of us will know that our choices are a byproduct of our thinking. Most of us will know that our choices are a byproduct of our feelings, okay? So if you don't feel good, you aren't going to choose good. If you don't think good, you aren't going to choose good, okay? This is one of the real important reasons why it's important to work on your mental health. It's important to read books like What Do You Say When You Talk to Yourself? It's important. Like, the reason these things are important is not because, oh yeah, that's a good book. The reason these things are important is because what they produce for you, what they provide for you. If you level up your thinking from stinking thinking, you can get your thinking into helping you have feelings and choices that are going to pay you, that are going to benefit you, that are going to produce for you what I'm going to call exponential results from incremental developments. Okay? So hopefully this is helpful. If this is helpful for someone as well, just let me know in the chat. Let me know if this is helpful, right? Let's go forward, because otherwise we're going to get stuck in terms of time. So let's do this. All right, so the first trap was to not rewind. The second trap was to not review. The third trap was to not rethink. The fourth trap is to not remind yourself. Okay? Remind yourself of what, Samuel? Remind yourself of all the things you observed when you rewound, to remind yourself of all the things you observed when you reviewed, to remind yourself of all the things which are the reason you now need or desire to rethink. Okay, you need to remind yourself. Now, how do you remind yourself? There are many different ways you can remind yourself. One of the ways you can remind yourself is through means of tangible things you do to change things. Okay, so one of the things I do is I will make sure, because like I've said earlier in the session, and for those of you who don't know, like, I'm an avid reader. I've got a passion for reading. I've probably got a passion for reading because I don't like when people tell me I can't do something. And I remember growing up and hearing the silly statement. I don't know if you've heard this statement, just write in the comments. I have. But there was a statement I heard when I was a young child. I was probably about 12, 13 years old. And the statement was, if you want to hide something from a black man, put it in a book. Okay. Now, I'm not saying this to be racist. I'm just telling you what I heard when I was around 13 years old. Now, interestingly enough, at 13, hearing that, I didn't start reading books. Okay. It took me being sent to prison, being released from prison, being sent back to prison, celebrating my 18th birthday in prison, being released from prison, and then deciding, you know what, I want to go to university and change my life, and changing my life, and starting at the age of 18, 19 to start changing my life, studying 4 degrees, getting focused on property, replacing my wife's income. Like, it took a whole bunch of stuff from hearing that at the age of 13 to be the person who really has this passion that I have today, to read and to learn and to develop myself and to enhance myself and to become someone that I wasn't before. It took a journey, right? But when I use the term remind, and I'm encouraging you guys to remind yourself throughout this year, remind yourself. The likes are blowing up in TikTok. And I'm encouraged to help you understand this year, remind yourself of the things that you have learned when you rewind. Remind yourself of the things that you have learned when you review. Remind yourself of the things that you've learned when you rethink. How do you do that? I'll give you an example. If I should give you guys an example, just put the word yes in the chat if you'd like me to give you an example, okay? Because I'm here to help you, but at the same time, like, the live has to obviously run for a certain amount of time, right? And I definitely want to get through all 10, and we're currently on number 4. Okay, so remind yourself. And if you guys want me to give you a tangible example, like a simple, basic, practical example of how I remind myself, just put yes in the chat and I'll do that. So remind yourself, okay? That's the key. Remind yourself, like, help yourself by reminding yourself. Tell yourself, okay? And guys, all comments are coming through to me. So if you're in TikTok, I see you. Throw those comments in. YouTube, Facebook, Instagram. I think we've got everything up in here today, thankfully. Glory be to God. We're making progress. All right. So remind yourself. What did you discover when you reviewed? What did you discover when you rewinded? What did you discover when you decided to rethink? Like, remind yourself. Put tangible things in place to remind you. Okay. Don't just say to yourself, oh, I'm going to remember in my head. I remember being in university studying my first undergraduate degree. This was between the years 2005 and 2008. And one of my closest friends in university, basically my best friend in university, he said something to me that he had found in a book, and it changed my life. He said he learned this from Pastor Matthew Ashimolowo, right? So if you're in the UK, you know who I'm talking about. But Pastor Matthew is basically one of the most well-known pastors in the UK, right? And I've been fortunate enough to attend a number of his seminars, like connect with his family, like in terms of his son and all of this stuff. Like I thank God for the ability to be able to connect with certain people on certain levels. But one of the things Pastor Matthew wrote in one of his books, I believe it's the book Be the Best. He's got a book called Be the Best, right? But one of the things he wrote in that book is a short pencil is better than a long memory. Now, I didn't read that for myself at the time to hear that. The way I heard it that stuck with me was when my best friend in university said it to me. He said to me, Samuel, a short pencil is better than a long memory. Now, what was powerful is I started journaling in 2005. So I started journaling like a year or two before my friend said this to me. But when my friend said it to me, it hit hard. Like, yeah, that's true. Like, a short pencil is better than a long memory. Like, I'll give you an example, right? Just to show you guys how real this is. Well, I can do this. I just have to get up, all right? If I should get up, someone just write get up, okay? And then I'll get up and make it even more tangible to you. But the point I'm making is like, not only do I journal, but I prepare to journal. Samuel, what do you mean you journal and you prepare to journal? Well, you know, I journal. Each year I have a journal, but I also prepare to journal by buying my journals in advance. So if my journal runs out, I'm not the guy who's looking around like, oh, yo, I don't have a journal. Like, no, I've got a journal in preparation for when my journal runs out. And I typically, because I've been journaling for about 20 years now, I typically know how long it takes me to fill up a journal. Now, most of the time I buy Moleskine journals, and they're around 283 pages, 280 pages. So I know exactly how long it takes in a year before, oh, the journal's done, okay? Now, what is this? Like, all of this stuff I'm talking to you guys about is the reminding part. This is how you remind yourself. Buy yourself another journal for when your journal runs out, especially if you've learned. Listen, see, this is so powerful because as I'm sharing this, I didn't plan to share this, but I'm seeing how all of the elements of all of the traps before are basically like embedded within what I'm sharing. Like, it's because I rewind, it's because I review, it's because I rethink that I know I have to remind myself to have a journal in place before the end of the year because I'm typically going to end up X, Y, Z. Like, hopefully this is helpful. Hopefully this is helpful. So remind. Now, the next one, which comes after this, is one that most people aren't comfortable with, but I'm going to share it with you because I think you need this. You deserve to discover the 5th trap that is going to stop you in 2026 from taking territories. If you are someone who dares to rewind, if you are someone who's bold enough to review, if you are someone who's wise enough to rethink, and if you are someone who's talented enough to remind yourself, the 5th trap is essential. What is that trap? It's to repent. Okay? And yes, I kind of like semi-mini pause there for emphasis, right? It's to repent. Like, Samuel, what do you mean repent? Like, what do I need to repent of? Like, firstly, let's de-spiritualize this because yes, repentance is a spiritual matter. Okay, so I'm not saying let's de-spiritualize it because it's not a spiritual matter. I'm saying let's de-spiritualize it because sometimes we over-spiritualize matters which stop us from realizing the value in the matter, in the here and now, in our tangible, in our natural. So let's break into this. The word repent simply means to stop and turn. That's all it means. It means to stop and turn, right? Now, why is this important? The reason it's important is because if you rewind and you review and you rethink and you even get to a place where you say to yourself, after you've rethought, okay, now I'm going to remind myself, but you don't repent, you don't stop and turn, you don't make an active transition, an active change, what's going to happen is all of the investment you've made in learning and all of the other stuff is going to be a waste of your time. It's going to be a waste of your time and my time, a waste of my time coming here sharing this with you, but a waste of your time because it's not going to produce anything for you. Okay. Now, if this is making sense to you, if you're someone who's hearing this and you're like, Samuel, that makes a lot of sense, right? Just write me in the chat so I know that this is tracking. People are tracking, right? So this is the key. The key is not just to rewind. Okay, that's like the reason why I've shared these as 10 traps is because this is exactly what they are. Like, if you do 4 and don't do more, you are actually trapped still at the door. And this is the reason why I've shared it with you guys as traps, for you guys to see this is what's trapping people year in, year out, this year, next year. Like in 2027, I'm gonna keep it real, guys. If the Lord tarries in 2027, there are going to be people in the same or worse positions / predicaments than they are right now in 2026. Okay, I'll say it again in case you need to pick up your pen. And this is not a doom and gloom prophecy, guys. This is me just telling you how life is. Like, there are people who entered 2026 in a worse predicament or position than they were in 2025. That's life. Now, I get it. Like, there's the energy, there's the buzz. Oh, new year, new me. Like, I get that, guys. But let's just get to reality as quick as possible. Because the faster you get to reality, the faster you can live out your reality. Okay? And live out your reality works in both ways. It works in the manifestation of living out your reality, but it also works in the acceleration of living out, like driving out, zooming out, motorcycling out of your reality, your current reality, should I say. So it's super important to understand that there are many people who are trapped because yes, they will rewind. Yes, they will review. Yes, they will even go as far as to rethink. They might even be someone who puts things in place to remind, but they don't repent. They don't stop and turn and say, you know what, I'm not doing that anymore. I'm not doing those old things anymore. I'm not going to think like that anymore. I'm not going to be in those places or those spaces anymore. I'm not going to be caught in those predicaments anymore. I'm not going to make those flawed decisions anymore. Going back to the illustration that we had a moment ago, like, if you guys are thinking about this, this says that, beloved, I wish above all things that you prosper and be in health even as your soul prospers. But look at this. This is where it gets so good, right? I said to you, the soul is the thinking, the feeling, and the choosing. So think about that for a moment. Imagine if you enter this year thinking, feeling, and choosing the same things that you were thinking, feeling, and choosing last year. What's going to be the net outcome of that? The same as this year. You're going to end up with this year what you had last year because you're using the same mindset, tool set, and skill set that you used last year. You're going to end up this year with the same stuff you had last year because you're using the same repertoire of resources that you used last year. And as I said previously, Albert Einstein would often say you cannot solve a problem using the same level of intelligence it was created with. What does that mean? That means if you have not made a concerted effort to repent, to stop and turn, you really aren't in a position to be able to earn. Yes, you might learn, but you need to turn. If you don't turn, you can't expect anything else, all right? As it's often said, if you do what you've always done, you will get what you've always got. So repent. All right, now, here's where we get into my favorite, right? And part of the reason this is my favorite is because we're on trap number 6, and most people don't make it here, okay? And it's funny, I saw something yesterday, I shared it with my wife this morning, and my wife said something to me so powerful. She was like, I was laughing, right? And she was like, oh, you're laughing because the bar is so low, okay? And I said, no, I'm not laughing because the bar is so low. But I went on to explain to my wife why I was laughing. But I want to take the statement she made and I want to leverage that and use that for you guys to help you, right? Are you laughing because the bar is so low? Guys, it is a reality to those who are achieving success in the areas you desire to achieve success in, that the bar is lower than you think it is. Okay, I'm going to say that again in case you needed to grab your pen. It is a reality to those in the realms that you desire success in, to the people that are achieving success in the areas you want to achieve success. It's a reality to them that the bar to achieve what they're achieving is a lot lower than you think it is. It's a reality to them. What do you mean, Samuel? I'll give you an example, right? The book's not here. I think the book's over there on the other side of the library. Yes, it is over there. I've got more than one copy, but it's over there anyway. There is a great book, right? And again, you don't have to get all of the books I'm talking about. You don't even have to read these books. I just want you to understand the conceptual ideas of the books I'm sharing. If you're like Dwayne and I'm ordering it, then guys, it's cool. You can order the books as well, right? Just don't order the books for the sake of ordering them. Don't order them because Samuel I Can Win spoke about them. Like, order them because you're going to genuinely read them and extrapolate the value for you and your family out of them, right? Because legacy is what's important. Now, let's go deeper. I came across a book a number of years ago. Again, this was probably about 12 years ago, 13 years ago. The book is The Millionaire Next Door, written by two doctors, Stanley and Danko. And Stanley and Danko in that book reveal a very powerful concept, which I don't think I can say I was cognitively aware of. Like I was notionally aware of. I kind of understood it, but I really saw it when I read their book, right? And what they were basically saying is most human beings believe that riches and wealth looks like a certain thing, right? Is presented in a certain manner. So I don't know why. Whenever I think of this example, I don't know if they wrote this in the book, but I always think of Snoop, okay? The D-O-double-G, okay? And guys, I'm going to say it again. I don't know why. I do not know why, okay? And Snoop, if you ever end up watching this, I don't know why. I'm just telling you, I don't know why, right? But for years now, whenever I've used that book as an example, the first person that always comes to my mind is Snoop, right? Snoop D-O-double-G. Why? This is why. Because growing up, he's one of the rappers that maybe I saw growing up, right? Or I was privy to engaging with his content. Let me put it that way. But the point I'm making is this: if you are 13 years old, if you're 11 years old, if you're 10 years old, if you're 14, if you're 15, if you're 50, and you believe that wealth looks like something, it looks like the Lamborghini, the Ferrari Spider. It looks like the Lamborghini Giuliano. If you think it looks like something, you will consistently think you don't have it if you don't have that something. Okay, if this is making sense, just write yes in the chat, right? Because this hopefully that's a super simple concept. But if it's a super simple concept, you guys are gonna get exactly where I'm going with this. And this is one of the concepts that I believe Stanley and Danko articulate so well in their book, The Millionaire Next Door. They help us understand something. They basically do the actual research, and they find that the overwhelming majority of millionaires, the overwhelming majority of multi-millionaires in the US, because their research was predominantly done in the States, are people that live, quote unquote, next door to you. That's how they got the title, The Millionaire Next Door. They're not people that live in the most opulent of the opulent, driving the most opulent of the opulent, wearing the most opulent of the opulent. They're people that just live like next door to us, right? And it was my experience reading that book, The Millionaire Next Door by Stanley and Danko, which helped me not just notionally kind of know in my head, oh, like you can be a millionaire, not quote unquote look like what people think is a millionaire, but it helped me conceptually actually see that the overwhelming majority of multimillionaires and millionaires are people that you and I previously, prior to their book, might not have realized are millionaires. Okay, now why is this important? The reason it's important, it goes back to the statement I made a moment ago, right? RJB in the house who says makes sense, right? It goes back to the statement I made earlier. And the statement I made earlier is so profound if you really lock into that. What is the statement? The statement is, if you believe wealth / success / wealth / riches / wealth / health / whatever you want to call it, whatever territory you're planning to take over in 2026, if you believe that looks like a certain thing, for as long as you don't have that certain thing, you're going to assume and presume that you don't have the wealth in that area, that territory in that area. And this is the reason why my favorite trap of all 10 of these traps is trap 6. My favorite trap out of all these traps is trap 6, because the bar is so low. And the bar is so low because most people haven't done a rewind. Most people haven't done a review. Most people don't want to rethink. Most people will not remind themselves. Most people have decided they're not willing to repent. So that's what keeps the bar so low. So if you're someone who's saying to yourself, you know what, 2026 is my year. 2026 is the year I'm going to take territories. 2026 is the year I'm going to avoid these traps. I'm not going to get caught in the traps of 2025 or 2024 or 2020. Well, I'm here to tell you there's only 10 traps and 5 of them we've already got through. And here's where an overwhelming majority of people are going to fall off because the bar is so low. So what's number 6, Samuel? What is that 6th trap that you really like so much, Samuel, that most people get wrong. And it is the trap of the reframe. Someone throw in the chat the word reframe. It's the trap of the reframe. It's to reframe your lane. Like, it's the reframe. Like, it's the reframe. Like, I'll give you an example, right? I put these here to help you guys see what I'm talking about today, right? So these are two bank cards, right? Well, they're two cards. Let me say that because of the nuance in saying bank cards, right? These are two cards. Now, if you're joining me on this live, you can see, okay? This one's green, okay? And this one's my favorite color. For those of you who don't know what it is, it's purple, okay? This one's green, this one's purple, okay? Now, this one, if you saw it, actually has my wife's name on it, right? And for those of you on TikTok, there you go. This one's purple, this one's green, okay? Now, why am I showing you guys these cards? I'm showing you these cards for a reason, right? These cards come from an organization called crypto.com, all right? And yes, I've got an affiliate link, but guys, like, this isn't that, right? And this is why I'm sharing a whole bunch of resources here today. And hopefully if I can get my team to put all of these inside of the YouTube link when this video goes up, this will just be helpful for you if you're interested in any of this stuff, right? Now, Samuel, are you selling crypto? No, I'm not selling crypto. That's not what this is. I'm sharing with you a concept, and I think the easiest way to share the concept is through means of illustration or demonstration. And this is the reason why I'm showing you what I'm showing you, right? So the sixth trap is the trap of the reframe, okay? Because most of us do not know the difference between what I've learned as academic learning and actual learning, what happens is most of us do not reframe ourselves, or as I used the term earlier, reframe our lane in order for us to get to our destinations. Now, Samuel, what's that got to do with the cards? How does that work? Well, I'm going to explain that, right? Now, crypto.com is the company. You've probably heard of them, right? They took over the Staples Center a year or two ago, a Staples Center in the US. Like they're a big player in the crypto space, okay? Now, a number of years ago, when they first came out, I don't even want to use the word dabbling, right? I was interested in cryptocurrency. So, you know, I put some funds into cryptocurrencies, right? Now, here's where this all connects, right? Because I want you guys to just see the clearest path. So I'm trying not to tell you a long story to get to the point. So the point is this. I recognized that crypto.com were doing something slightly different. What they were doing is they were saying, well, hold on a minute. Yes, we're in the crypto space. Yes, we have our own crypto coin, which is the CRO coin. But more importantly, we're also going to plug into the banking space because we understand that there's a gap between people who want to do normal banking stuff, pay for things, and people who want to have cryptocurrency, right? Decentralized revenue, right? Let's put it that way. So they created some amalgamation, right? Where basically you can invest in their coin, like you could invest in any coin, like Bitcoin, Ethereum, etc. But you could also, like, just get a bank card with them, okay? And that's something, obviously, as you can see, my wife and I did, right? Now, what's this got to do with reframing? This is exactly what it's got to do with reframing. Crypto.com then said, listen, guys, if you've got a bank card with us, here's what you can do. They rolled out this program where they're like, look, you can invest a certain amount of money. And when you invest that certain amount of money, that amount of money will give you a certain level of status inside of our ecosystem. Okay. So I heard that. And at the time I was like, that's interesting. But also there's a risk. Okay. And we're going to come back to risk later on because that's actually one of the traps as well. But it's one of the bonus traps. So I didn't want to share it yet, but it's cool. But there's some associated risk. So how does this all work? And I did the research and I realized, you know what? I'm going to have to reframe my mind to get one of these cards. Because my whole life, one of the first things is at the time I got those cards, I had never had a credit card in my life. Okay? Never had a credit card. So having lived my whole life only having debit cards, a number of those to say the least as well, it was a new way of thinking, rethink, to have to change, repent, and start to engage in, reframe, in order to invest and say, you know what, I'm going to go get one of these cards. I'm going to put X amount down, 8,000 down, 10,000 down, 12,000 down, 6,000 down, whatever it is, in order to get one of these cards. Okay? This reframe is essential. Why? Because the bar is so low. You and I are being tested and tried to reframe our minds as we go into 2026. If you have a desire, if you require to aspire to a level higher, I'm here to tell you that the key to unlock your territory in 2026 is the power of the reframe. How you reframe scenarios. I'll give you an example, right? I learned this from Dr. Miles Monroe. Those of you who don't know Dr. Miles Monroe, the late, great Dr. Miles Monroe, a prolific author, okay? Go buy any book, just read it, and you'll be like, yo, I need more of that. The late, great Dr. Miles Monroe said something that really shook my mind a number of years ago, okay? And for those of you who already know who Dr. Miles Monroe is, just write I do in the chat so I know I'm not alone, right? But I remember years ago, Dr. Miles Monroe, there's like, he's got so many bars, right? There's so many things he said that really, I guess, impacted my life. One of them was every solution that you need in your life is actually in a book that's already in your house. Like that was a powerful one, right? That really changed my life. But we're talking about the reframe. So let me get to the point. One of the things that I remember hearing Dr. Miles Monroe saying succinctly one time about reframing was when he defined the word challenge. And I heard him say once that the word challenge in one of the Eastern Asian nations has another meaning. And the other meaning is opportunity. I believe it's Japan. I'm not sure, but I believe it's Japan. But he said the other meaning is opportunity. And I was like, wow, that's profound. Like, guys, I want you to think about that for a moment. Every time you see something that you call a challenge, there are people who see the same thing, and when they use the same word, they also see a duplicitous, they also see a secondary, they also see a whole nother side to that coin. I want you to think about it. Look, here's a coin. I want you to see what I'm talking about. Here's a coin, right? Here's a coin. And for most of us, when we look at a coin, we might see heads or we might see tails. But what if every time you saw a coin, you saw a coin? Okay, here's my question. Who has a better vantage on what's really going on? The person who sees heads, the person who sees tails, or the person who sees a coin? Someone write in the chat, heads, tails, or coin. Okay? Because that's the power of a reframe. If you live in a world where you say, no, I can only be stuck on debit cards, or no, I can only be stuck on credit cards, and you don't allow yourself from the rewinding, from the reviewing, from the rethinking, from the reminding, from the repenting, if you don't allow yourself to have the reframing and say to yourself, well, let's drop a few stacks and get access to a few things which we wouldn't have had access to otherwise. Doing things the way we've been doing them. Hashtag the reframe. If you are not willing to do that for yourself in 2026, you are not going to be able to take the territory that God is asking you to take. That God is laying on a plate. And I know some of you are going to, I'm getting your feelings. Oh, Samuel, God's laying it on a plate. Yes, man. Go read the book of Psalms. He prepareth a table for me in the presence of my enemies. So there are things prepared for you, even in the midst of what you might perceive as enemies, which you may miss if you are not willing to reframe. We had our men's Bible and breakfast session earlier this morning. One of the things I was sharing with them is the Bible says, surely goodness and mercy shall follow me. What does that mean? That means when you look back over your life, you can complain, you can act like life's been a whole bunch of strain, but when you look back at your life, guess what you do? You start realizing, oh wow, I'm so glad God got me through this. Oh wow, I'm so glad God got me out of that. Wow, I'm so, like, what is that? That's the goodness and mercy that he was talking about in the book of Psalms showing up because it was following you. And sometimes you got to take a step back. Sometimes you got to have an attitude of gratitude to recognize it. But nonetheless, the sixth trap is to not engage in the reframe. And I want to help you guys understand that the reframe is so important. It's so important because so many people don't do it. So I want to encourage you to do the reframe. Okay, now let's jump into step 7. For those of you who know, if you've been in any of my classes where I teach about biblical numerology, 7 is the number for completion. So 7 is like where this starts, in my opinion, is just it starts becoming valuable on a tangible level. Okay, so let's start making it valuable on a tangible level. And guys, please understand, all of this stuff is valuable on a tangible level if you're doing it from the beginning, but it gets more valuable on a more tangible level if you start getting into this level 7 and beyond. So let's go. Level 7 is rewards. Okay, rewards. Now, for the value, for the payment, for the payoff of you reframing your mind, for the payoff of you reminding yourself, for the payoff of you being someone who says, you know what, I'm going to walk away from that, I'm going to repent, for the payoff of you being able to rewind, for the payoff of you being able to review, for the payoff of the 6 traps you've overcome previously, you should engage in a form of reward. Now, there's different ways to be rewarded. One of them is very much spoken about in the personal development world, which is give yourself a gift. Okay, and I'm speaking in this very simple, like logistical language, so you guys understand exactly what I'm talking about and you don't get confused with other concepts or ideas, right? But one of the ways you can do that is by giving yourself a gift. You provide yourself a gift as a reward. Hey, every time I do $100,000 in a month, I'm going to buy myself a new watch. Or every time, like whatever, every time I do, £500,000 in 2 months, I'm going to take my family on an all expenses paid trip. Or every time I do £248,000 in a 30-day period, I'm going to whatever your thing is, right? Rewards. Okay, now that's one way to reward yourself. When I say rewards, I'm talking about something slightly different, and I'm not saying this is exclusive of what we just said. Like I gave those examples so you guys can have something tangible, but I want you to have more. Okay, so here's more. And guys, let me just say this, right? Because we're at number 7, it's the number of completion. If you are watching this on TikTok and you are getting value, TikTok's over here. If you're watching this on TikTok and you're getting value and you're not following my page on TikTok, now's a great time to just hit follow, okay? And if you're watching this on TikTok and you're getting value and you think other people like you should be able to tune into this, now's a great time to hit share, okay? Samuel, I'm getting value from what you're sharing. I'm going to actually share this with other people because I think there's another person in the whole world who might get value the way I am as well, right? So if you're watching this on TikTok and you're getting value, follow my page because I share content like this fairly regularly, and also share this if you're bold enough, all right? And that's not me trying to be cheeky by saying if you're bold enough. I'm just saying if you're bold enough because I know most of the people that follow me are introverts, so they don't like talking about stuff. And because they don't like talking to people about stuff, they don't necessarily like sharing with people the stuff that's valuable for them because then people know what's valuable for them, right? But just share it because that's part of the reframe and the rethinking, right? So hopefully that helps. Now, if you're watching this on YouTube or Facebook or Instagram, right, or any of these other platforms, I want to encourage you to do basically the same thing on the platform. I don't know what the platform you're on is, so I don't know what it can do, but I know on YouTube you can hit subscribe. I know on YouTube there's this new thing now where you can add hype. I don't even know what that's all about, but you can do that. And I know on YouTube you can also share this. You can share this in your favorite WhatsApp group where you got other like-minded people and say, hey guys, you know what, I got some value for 2026. I wanted to share this with you. No one else is going to be sharing this, guys. I'm just telling you right now, okay? So if you're on YouTube and this is of value, feel free to hit subscribe to the channel. Feel free to hit like on the video. Feel free to share the content. If you're on Instagram and you're getting value, feel free to share the content. I think you can follow me on Instagram, so feel free to follow me on Instagram if you're not, and all of that other stuff. All right, let's keep it moving. All right, guys, and look, let me ask this question. If you are getting value from what we're sharing, can you just write the word value in the chat? Whatever platform you're on, if anything I've shared with you has been of value so far, just write the word value so I know that at the time I could be spending with my wife, me asking her if it's okay for me to spend time with you is valuable too. All right, so let's keep going. All right, so where we're at number 7, perfection and completion. So I've said to you, number 7 is rewards. And again, I want to say this because I want it to be super clear. I'm not saying the rewards examples I gave a moment ago are not good. I'm not saying that. I'm not saying they're not the kind of rewards you should give yourself. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying that's a type of reward, and that's why I clearly defined it and described it so you understand what those type of rewards are. But this is the kind of rewards I'm talking about more so. Let me use that language. I think that's helpful. So the kind of rewards I'm talking about more so are rewarding yourself by imparting and impacting your community. Okay? Rewarding yourself by imparting and impacting your actual purpose. Rewarding and literally rewarding by literally impacting and imparting not just your community, not just your purpose, but also your culture. Okay, so Samuel, what does that mean? Like, what when you say that, Samuel, what are you talking about? Okay, and it's super quiet in TikTok. I'm seeing the people are jumping in, so I'm assuming people are sharing. So thank you guys, on those of you on TikTok, thank you for sharing. It looks like a whole bunch of people are jumping in. So, and guys, for those of you who are jumping in, if you're jumping in brand new, my name is Samuel. I can win, it can win. I help people create consistent and colossal cash flow using resources and revenues hidden in plain sight, right? So, yeah, I told you guys who I am, right? And you can just follow and check it out yourself, right? If it's stuff of value, follow. If it's not, don't worry about it. I still love you. So, we get to this place of rewards, okay? It's the 7th trap as we enter every single year. Most people don't reward themselves, okay? I'm not talking about rewarding yourself by buying yourself a new watch every single time you hit £100,000 in a month. I'm not talking about by taking your family on an all-expensive paid trip every single time you hit $500,000 in 2 months. That's not what I'm talking about. Now, you can do that, right? You can do that, but that's not what I'm talking about, okay? And they are rewards, but again, that's not the rewards I'm talking about, okay? The type of rewards I'm talking about, the kind of value I'm talking about, is where you start to impact and impart your community as a reward. You say to yourself, as a reward, when XYZ happens from my reframing, when ABC happens from my repenting, I'm going to show up at a university and do a free presentation. I'm going to give X to Y. Okay, like these are the kind of rewards like I think about. Okay, but that's just because where I'm at in my journey. Okay, you might not be there in your journey yet. It's okay. So if you're still in the place in your journey where when you make £5,000 in a month, you want to buy yourself a new watch, that's cool. Where you make £10,000 in a month, you want to go buy yourself a new car, that's cool. Guys, I love you, right? This is not me talking down on anyone, right? I'm just telling you, as you develop in your future, you're going to get to a place where the stuff isn't that important anymore. You're going to get to a place where the stuff is kind of like, I don't want to say capped, because there is no such thing as in this current world we're in as capped, right? Bezos wants to go to the moon. Musk wants to go with him. Like, okay, guys, you get what I'm talking about, right? People, there's more than enough stuff to keep yourself busy if you desire that stuff. So that's not what I'm saying. But what I am saying is you get to a place in your life, especially if you're a person of divine purpose, where more stuff doesn't make a difference to you. What does make a difference, what is a true reward, is when you're able to invest in people's lives. Okay, like I don't know about you, I don't know if you see this, but me being here right now, whilst being happily married with an amazingly beautiful wife who not only cooked an amazing dinner tonight, but also decided to go and cook cake and crumble. Like, guys, you know what I mean? Like, I should probably be a very, very big, like physically big guy, right? Just because the way my house is, like, yo, Samuel, you're taken care of, right? But I share this with you guys to share it. Excuse me, guys. Sometimes I like when I think about my life, it does crack me up sometimes, right? But guys, like, I share this with you to say, like, I'm here right now. I'm here with you. I'm here with you. My wife is beautiful. My wife is extremely attractive. And if I talk about her anymore, like, guys, you're going to see me, like, maybe jump off this life, because, like, I married her for a reason. But the point I'm making is, as much as I'm interested in my wife, I'm here with you guys on this life. Why is that? That's because I've gotten to a place in my life a number of years ago, probably about, I'd call it from around 2019 is when I started to recognize it on myself most. But I've gotten to a place in my life where it's not about the things anymore. It's actually about the impact. It's about who can I help and how can I help them. That's where I've gotten to in my life. And I believe, I could be wrong, but I believe that many of the people that follow me, many of the people that engage in my content are people that resonate with that message. And I don't know, but if you resonate with that message, if that's you, just write the word me in the chat, okay? Whatever platform you're on. Just so I know that like I don't have the wrong assessment of the people that watch my content. But genuinely, like, my content ain't about screaming and shouting and making a camera come out of the sky. Like that's not my content. Like, my content's about, guys, let's make it happen. Like, let's do MVP, minimum viable product, and let's just add value. And because of that, I resonate a lot of the time with the people that connect with me, because the people that connect with me think similar to how I think. And the way we think is just like, yo, we want to help people. We want to be kingdom financiers. We want to be entrepreneurs who can help other communities. We want to be people who can help people come up because we had to come up, right? And again, that's not everyone's story. That's cool. I get it, right? But that's mine, right? So the point I'm making is, when we get to this stage 7 of rewards, reward yourself. Reward yourself. Allow yourself to go do that public speaking gig to the school. Allow yourself to go to that prison and give back and help. Allow yourself to go to that homeless shelter and assist. Allow yourself to fund that women's shelter where the women have been going through domestic abuse. Allow yourself to help those women who have been going through financial struggles and don't know which way to turn in order to start to now again earn. Allow yourself to do the stuff. Allow yourself to support the people going through mental health issues. Like, allow yourself by giving yourself the reward. Okay. Now, I feel like I've belabored this point too much, but guys, if you guys are understanding what I'm talking about, just throw in the chat the words "I do" so I know you're with me. All right. So that is the reward. Now, let's get into some more of my favorite. Number 8. Number 8 is one of my favorite, and it is read. Okay. Read. Ladies and gentlemen, please read. Yes, it rhymes, but guys, I'm going to say it to you again and again. Please read. What do I mean by please read? Reading is one of the fastest ways to open up your mind to possibilities. Now, some of you may be thinking, or some of you talking about a novel. I am not talking about a novel. Are you talking about storybooks? Guys, I don't think I've ever read a novel. I might have in school, but like cognitively, I don't think I've ever purchased a novel and read it, right? And if I've purchased a novel, I can definitely tell you I don't believe I've read it, right? I read a lot of books. Like, it just doesn't happen, okay? Now, Samuel, if you're not talking about novels, but you are talking about opening up the mind, Samuel, what are you talking about, right? So I can literally show you this. If you guys would like me to show you what I'm talking about, just write in the comments, show me, okay? 2 words, show me. Simple comment, show me, okay? And then I'll show you practically. But the point I'm making is, after you rewind, after you review, after you rethink, after you remind yourself, and after you repent, verse 5, be sure to break through the mold by recognizing the bar is so low and ensuring that you go on to reframe and reward so you can get to this place where you actually read. Okay? Read information that will provide you with transformation. Read information in formats of organization that will foster your transformation. Okay? Read, ladies and gentlemen. Read. Now, Samuel, why are you telling me to read? Are you telling me to read because when I read a book, I'm going to know how to do what the book talks about? No, like I don't think I've ever read a book and come to the end of the book and been like, oh, now I know what to do. Now I know how to do what the book told. No, like I don't even think books were made for that. Like, I don't know, like whoever came up with the great idea of actually encapsulating information in a book, right? But I want you to understand that the purpose of reading, to the best of my knowledge, someone who reads a lot of books, the purpose of reading is not to know how to do what's in the book. The only way to know how to do something is to actually do it repetitively, repeatedly, and through a process of refinement, right? That's the only way to learn how to do something properly. Samuel, what do you mean? Well, I said it to you guys earlier. Like, there's a difference between actual learning and academic learning. Academic learning says read because the moment you finish reading the book, you're going to know how to do everything in the book. No, that is garbage. That's a lie. If that was the case, I love that. Is that Cedric? Cedric says you're clear. Let's go. If that was the case, right, that you are going to learn how to do something when you read a book, then my 1-year-old son, my youngest son presently, would have learned how to walk, or wouldn't have been able to learn how to walk until he learned how to read. Like Like, someone tell me if that makes sense, right? If the purpose of reading a book is to learn how to do what the book talks about, then none of us would know how to do anything. And we wouldn't be able to know how to do anything because none of us would know how to do what we can do until we first learn how to read. Like, reading, like, see, this is the big scam. And I think I've seen this scam so deeply because I used to be a teacher. I used to be a teacher trainer. I used to teach teachers how to teach. And when I worked in schools and I taught teachers how to teach, this was one of the big things that stood out to me. The fact that most people don't realize the actual purpose of reading. The purpose of reading is not to be the person who says, oh, I know. The purpose of reading is not to be the person who can say, I've read. The purpose of reading is not to be the person who can say, oh, now I get it. I can do it. Okay? Cedric says, difference between practical and theory. Yes, like I wouldn't say it's the difference between practical and theory, but yes, that on a general macro level, that is the that is a great perspective to have. But what I'm talking about is slightly deeper. I'm talking about the difference between academic learning and actual learning. So for example, I studied 4 degrees. Most of those degrees are in the field of statistics, okay? Statistics and mathematics. Now, through those degrees, I got a lot of theoretical learning. Through my work as an employee, I got a lot of practical learning. But the reality is I got very little actual learning in both. Because there's a massive difference between actual learning and academic learning. And that's also a massive difference between practical and theory, okay? So hopefully that helps. Because this isn't a session on methods of learning, Cedric says, right, okay, he gets it, right? So because this ain't a session on methods of learning, it's a bit, it's not the right time or place to necessarily break this down. But Cedric and everyone else in whatever platforms, if you'd like me to do a session on the difference between academic learning and actual learning, the difference between practical and theory, I'm happy to do that, right? And if I actually do that, most of you who are on that session will discover for the first time why so many people don't have wealth who desire wealth. But you'll also discover why the bar is so low for the people that actually do have wealth. Because the difference isn't, it's like a session I did on TikTok a few weeks ago. I'm going to share this succinctly before I get back to what I'm talking about. Recently on TikTok, I did a session, and the session was basically titled, if you're broke, stop trying to get rich. And what I broke down was the opposite of broke is not rich. The opposite of broke is to get fixed. The problem most people have is they are broke and they're trying to get rich. That equation can never work. The opposite of rich is poor. What does broke stand for? Bypassing rich opportunities knowingly every day. If you are bypassing rich opportunities knowingly every single day, you can never be rich. So what do you need? Well, if you're broke, you need to be fixed. If you're poor, you can work on being rich. Okay? What does poor stand for? Passing over opportunities regularly. Okay? And some people pass over those opportunities knowingly. Most of people pass over those opportunities unknowingly. Okay? But again, that's a session for another day. Cedric, thank you for that comment. That was super helpful. So, I assume, and guys, if you get value when someone writes a comment that causes me to go on a little bit of a tangent or a rant, then also say thank you in the chat to the person so Cedric can know that he was on the right lines in terms of expanding on those concepts and ideas. And guys, your feedback helps me understand where I need to go deeper on this stuff, where I need to pull back on this stuff, where I can go 100 miles an hour because you guys get it and so forth, right? So you guys let me know as well as we go through. All right, so where we at? Read. Now, reading is essential. The reason reading is essential is because the purpose of reading is not for you to say, like we've been fooled into thinking, oh, I've read the book, now I know how to do the thing. The purpose of reading is to open your mind to another way of something being done. That's all it is. The purpose of reading is awareness. It's awareness, right? Now, why is the purpose of reading awareness? Because awareness is the first step on the staircase to actualization. So anything you want to change in your life, you have to first become aware of it. I remember as a child, I started smoking at a very young age. I started smoking at the age of 13, okay? I gave up smoking at the age of 18, 19, okay? So I was smoking for around 6 years. Now, why is this important? It's important because I couldn't give up smoking until I was aware that it was something I didn't want to do. At the age of 18, 19, I was attempting to give up smoking, and I kept realizing this is hard. Like, I don't want to smoke, but I'm still smoking. So there's a problem here. So that friction started revealing to me an awareness of a problem that I had that I needed to solve. Now, here's the beautiful thing. When we recognize we have a problem that we can't solve, guess what we mostly do? As long as we're not foolish people, and I'm assuming there's no foolish people engaging with my stuff, right? But I want you guys to think about this. As long as we're not foolish people, the moment, someone tell me in the chat, the moment you recognize you have a problem that you cannot solve, what do we do? What do we do? Okay, someone let me know, right? I'll tell you what we do. We look for a solution. And now we're activating Matthew chapter 7, verse 7 in the Bible, which says, ask and you shall receive, seek and you shall find, knock and the door shall be opened unto you. Which I think is super interesting that all three of those words, ask, seek and knock, if you take the actual first letter of each of them, ask A, seek S and knock K, you get the word. Let's go. All right. So that's what happens when we read. When we read, we allow ourselves to see a new way things can be done, which opens up the doorways to awareness. And this is the reason why the reading comes after the rewarding. Because if you've rewarded yourself, if you've given yourself, if you've blessed yourself, if you've given yourself like a reward for tangibility, for yes, I'm on the right path now. I've done the rewind. I've made sure I didn't get trapped by the devil and not rewind the tapes. I've done the actual review. I've looked through. Again, you can use this resource that I used, your year compass. Again, you can use whatever you want, but I've reviewed. Now that I've reviewed, I've got to a place where I can rethink. I've rethought through what I did, what I didn't do right, what I could have done better. I've now reminded myself, I put tangible steps in place to remind me of what I can do better going forward. And then I've done the repent. I've stopped to turn in another direction. That now puts you in the perfect place to get into this higher order of the 5 traps and thus the 5 tactics, all right? And I'm just literally seeing the time, so let's speed through. So number 6 was reframe. Number 7 was reward. Number 8 was read. Okay, read. Be someone that exposes yourself to another way. Number 9 is determine your rate. Okay, now guys, I'm telling you right now, this is where so many people are not going to make the territory taking status in 2026. Don't be one of those people. Listen to my words extremely carefully. Determine your rate. Now, when I say determine your rate, most of you are thinking I'm talking about money. I'm not talking about money in any way, shape, or form. I'm talking about the one variable that is more valuable to you and I than money. Do you know what that is? That's speed. It's time. Determine the rate. Determine the speed at which you are going to accelerate. You determine that. You determine that. Let me tell you something. In 2022, I joined a 5-day coaching program. It was like less than $500 to be a part of this program. As an entrepreneur, like I've been working from home since 2016, 2017, and you know, homeschooling my children, all of that stuff, right? So financially free since 2016, etc. So as an entrepreneur, like I love being in environments where people are like, yo, let's get this. So I joined this 5-day training, and this environment was exactly a 100% yo, let's get this environment. So you know what I did? I joined again. And you know what I did? I joined again. And you know what I did? I joined again. I joined so many times. I think I did that program 20 something times. Okay. So much so that the people on the program started like making jokes like, oh yeah, we're going to give Samuel Akan a reward for being the most attended, for attending our training the most. Okay, now why am I telling you this? I'm not telling you this to flex. I'm not telling you this to show off. I'm telling you this to help you understand how I think when it comes to things like determining your rate. If you get into a room and you recognize this room helps me accelerate, this room puts propellers on my plane, this room literally puts scubas on my scuba dive. When I get into this room, you know what happens? Like the parts of me that I know need to be energized for me to have to be able to exercise my God-given rights, my God-given power, my God-given propensity to level up and make things happen. Guys, this is the room. Guess what you should do? You should get in that room as often as possible. Why? Because you determine your rate. In 2026, I've said it already. I'm going to say it again in case you need to pick up your pen. In 2026, many people who are even wise enough to rewind, to review, to rethink, to remind, to repent, to reframe, and to reward themselves, even if they're wise enough to get to step 8 and to read, are not going to be wise enough to determine their rate. They're not going to be wise enough to say, you know what? This person I'm following helps me propel. That person I'm following is just causing me to swell. I'm going to swap the person who I've been listening to that's causing me to swell with this person who's helping me to accelerate so well. Most people aren't going to do that. Most people aren't going to take stock. Most people aren't going to audit their situation, their scenario, their settings to the degree that they can say to themselves, you know what? I need to make a change. You know what? I'm actually going to determine my rate. I'm going to go faster this year than ever before. And the way I'm going to go faster this year than ever before is not because I'm just going to wake up and say, oh, today is 100 miles an hour. No, that's not how it works. It works based on, as Jim Rohn I first heard this from Jim Rohn back in 2005. It works based on you determining your altitude by first fostering and developing and deciphering to determine your altitude through means of determining your attitude. You see, when you say to yourself, no, I'm going to have the attitude that the rooms I go in that spark me, the rooms that I go in that get me ready, the rooms that I go in that fire me up, the rooms that I go in that make me feel like I can run through a brick wall and make things happen, they're the rooms I want to frequent and not just get in on a casual level. And for those of you who've never heard me say it, one of my favorite quotes, I say it all the time, Samuel, I can win, will always say, if you live life casually, you'll become a casualty. Don't be a casual person in 2026. Be the person who says to yourself, no, this is my year for real. I'm going to determine my rate of acceleration. I'm going to put myself in the places and in the spaces with the people who really cause me to show up and shine. If there's anyone who's on this live right now who's saying to me, Samuel, you know what? You're talking to me. Like, that's me. I'm making that commitment this year. Just write the word me in the chat, please. Okay, because I want you to actually make a declaration right now. I think this is, like, I feel that energy, and I think this is going to be of value to you to make a external declaration about the thing we're having right now as a proclamation, right? So if that's you, just write the word me in the chat. If you're someone who's saying, you know what, Samuel, I'm hearing you about this level 9 trap, and I'm hearing you more importantly about your level 9 tactic, and Samuel, that's me. I'm putting a line in the sand this year. I'm going to determine my rate. I'm going to put myself around people that are going to help me to accelerate. I'm going to put myself in rooms that's going to be of value to me. If that's you, just write the word me in the chat. All right, let's go deeper. Number 10, 10th trap. Hope you guys are ready. The 10th trap is realize. Okay, like now that you've done all the groundwork, now that you've done the rewind, now that you've done the review, now that you've when you've gone through all of that, now it's time to realize, take action. And don't take action when everything's perfect. You see, if I said to you to come and meet me in Honolulu, Hawaii, and you said to me, Samuel, I'm there, I'm coming, all expenses paid, let's go. And then I asked you, when are you leaving to come and meet me in Honolulu, Hawaii? When are you going to jump on the plane? First class, okay? All expenses paid. When are you going to leave? When are you going to jump on a plane? And if you said to me, Samuel, I'm leaving, I'm coming, I'm jumping on that plane as soon as all the traffic lights are green from my house to the airport, here's my question, when would you leave? Okay, I want you to think about that. Because this very same analogy equals to the very same strategy that I see many people employ in their life. Like, so many people live life like that. So many people are living a life where they're saying to themselves, yeah, I'm coming. I'm going to set my rate at 70 miles per hour this year. I'm fed up of living at 40. I'm fed up of being on a highway driving speeds as though I'm in a school lane, okay? In a school zone, okay? I'm fed up of it, right? I've met so many people who have that energy when you talk to them. But then when you say to them, okay, let's realize this. Let's make this make sense. Let's make this happen. Let's take a step. Let me tell you what these people tell me. Without saying it, they tell me, Samuel, I am going to get to the airport for that all expense paid, for that first class ticket to Honolulu in Hawaii to meet you when all the traffic lights are green from my house to the airport. In good old English fashion, these things ought not be so. Like, don't let that be your story anymore. In the areas of your life where you have struggled to realize things, be the person who takes action now. Like I often say this in my circles, like action takers are money makers, guys. And this isn't about money. This is about deeper than money. This is about your future being unlocked. This is about your legacy being left. This is about your capacity being achieved. But from the bottom of my heart, let me share it with you again, in case you just want to pick up your pen. Action takers are money makers. This year, make a concerted effort. Make a serious commitment. This year, 2026, don't be trapped by being someone who doesn't rewind, by being someone who doesn't review, by being someone who doesn't do any of the 10 things that I've shared with you. But beyond all, be someone who is in the realizing business, in the business of realizing the results that you desire. That's my biggest prayer for you. That's my biggest hope for you. That's my biggest intention for you this year. Be someone who's going to realize the results. Now, if anybody wants a bonus, I've got one bonus for you. Write the word bonus in the chat and I'll give you the bonus. Whilst you guys are deciding whether you want the bonus or not, I'm going to open up for you guys to share any key takeaways. If you have a key takeaway, if there is something that has stood out to you in today's live, just throw that in the chat. Share your key takeaway with the community. And guys, the reason why we share key takeaways is because that allows other people to see what you thought was valuable, and it allows you to see what other people think is valuable. And that is valuable in and of itself, right? It just increases the value inside of this environment. So if you got any value, you can feel free to just write the word value as well. If there's a specific thing that stood out to you, feel free to write whatever your key takeaway was or is. Let's go. Cedric came in real quick. Cedric says bonus. Let's go. All right, so here's the bonus. I'll give you guys the bonus as well. Okay, Cedric wants the bonus. I'll give you guys the bonus. The bonus is number 11. So we've gone through the 10 traps, but there's an 11th trap, and that 11th trap is one that I see many people get caught in, and I don't want you guys to get caught in 2026. So that's why I said, if you guys want the bonus, I'll give you the bonus. But it's not like, I don't want to say it's not mandatory, but the bonus isn't something that is like, oh yeah, you know, you have to focus on this as much as the rest. But the bonus is equally important to at least think about, right? So for those of you who want the bonus is the word risk, okay? Because something's going to happen in 2026 that you may not have ever seen happen for you previously. And I'm going to clearly describe it for you. And as I describe it, if you resonate, you can just write the word me in the chat. So I know that this is hitting. Yeah. And some of you might even be thinking, Samuel, are you reading my journal? Like, how do you know this? But I'm just going to be very transparent with you guys. So the bonus, number 11, the 11th trap is the word risk. Now, how does this work? I'm going to explain how it works. For your whole life, you may have seen certain things as a risk. But when you get to a level where you realize, quote unquote, taking that risk is the only way to achieve the result you desire, what happens is you reframe, like I said earlier, in terms of trap number 6, you reframe what was perceived as a risk and recognize that that's actually not a risk, it's actually a reward. And that's the reason why reframe is 6 and reward is 7, okay? Because I used my youngest son as an example for you guys earlier, and I said, if the purpose of reading was to be able to do something after reading a book, then my son wouldn't be able to walk until he learned how to read. Now my son, he's 1, like he's still learning how to talk. So learning how to read, it usually comes after talk, right? But the point is, the reason why he can walk, the reason why he can talk, and the reason why he will read is because what he perceives as a risk to walking, he had to at some point reframe and see as a reward for walking. So we start crawling and the risk is standing on 2 legs. And we don't want to take that risk. We never want to take that risk. Because if we take that risk of standing on 2 legs, oh no, you know what could happen? We could fall down. And then through a process of actual learning, not academic learning, we discover that the very thing we perceived as a risk, oh, I can't stand up on 2 legs, is actually the reward that is essential to what we're actually attempting to get. So the bonus, number 11, is the word risk, for us to understand that there is an implicit trap for all of us. There are people who are saying, you know what, they could never invest £100,000 in themselves. And you know what? They don't invest £100,000 in themselves. And then the day comes that they're faced with a brick wall, a boulder, a barrier that says to them, the only way through is to invest £100,000. They invest £100,000 and then they become the person who wants to invest £100,000 every single day. Why? Because they recognize that what they perceived was a risk was actually the door to their reward. So Cedric, let me know if that was helpful for you. I know Cedric's coming through on TikTok because his comments aren't coming through on the session. So Cedric, let me know if that was of value to you. I see the likes blowing up in TikTok, so I assume it was. It looks like we've been getting some, I think they're called badges in TikTok. I see roses in TikTok. So for those of you using TikTok who've been blessing the stream, thank you. We appreciate you. Lots of love to you guys. For those of you on all the other platforms, feel free to share your key takeaways. If you're watching this on a replay, feel free to just write the comment #replay and whatever your key takeaway was. And guys, with that being said, I'm going to love you guys. I'm going to leave you guys. And I'm going to let you guys get some rest, stay blessed, and continue to move further, faster in your future. Because as I often, always say, I want you to remember that small keys open big doors. With that being said, good day, God bless, let's go.